Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all to this afternoon's webinar on Perseverance, Finish Strong. We are so glad that you're joining us this afternoon for another great Webinar Wednesday. This afternoon we are pleased to have with us Jacob Clifford. He is a nationally award-winning teacher from San Diego, California. Jacob leads professional development workshops throughout the world and has worked with tens of thousands of new and veteran teachers and principals. He focuses on teaching strategies that motivate and engage students. In addition to being a popular YouTuber, Jacob is also the creator of Skill Building Boot Camp, a hands-on experiential learning program that has been implemented in thousands of schools. Jacob currently lives in Poway, California with his wonderful wife and 5 young children.
Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it. And thank you so much to the NAECSP for inviting me to work with your principals. I am thrilled and super excited. So let's jump into it. We're talking about finishing strong. Here's my contact information if you need anything from me. So you've got my email here as well. So if you need anything, you let me know. A quick introduction. She mentioned most of the things that you need to know about me. I'm born and raised in Southern California. I'm a teacher and consultant. And what's really cool is I did something called a crash course. If you have any high school students yourself, or if you know of high school students or college students, there's this YouTube series called Crash Course that I did for economics, which is what I teach. And I also have a program called Skill Building Boot Camp, which I'll talk a little bit later on as well. But I'm just thrilled to be here. And you also mentioned I have 5 kids. Yes, that's right, 5 kids. I know you're thinking that's crazy and not very economical for an economics teacher. But yeah, here's the picture of the family. There's the 5 kids and I. And you know, I'm not sure if you have a big family, but recently we went camping, and you know, if you've ever been camping with little kids, it is horrible. It's just constant, you know, crying and screaming and complaining and wetting the sleeping bag. And that wasn't even the kids; that was just me. We have a big family, and you know, we're actually thinking about adopting. And by adopting, I mean you can adopt one if you want, or 2 of them, or 3 of them. I've got plenty of extras. Anyways, that's the Clifford family. Let's talk about what we're doing today. First, I want to set the standard. I've worked with thousands of teachers over the years in the United States and internationally, and principals, all levels, all the way up down, elementary, middle school, high school, and college. I want you to know this session, this workshop you're going to attend right now, this professional development will be so worth your time. You know, when you log in, you're like, okay, it's going to be worth my time. It's the end of the semester. You know, the holidays are coming up. I got a little responsibilities. I promise you, as you're watching this in your office or at home, wherever you are right now, that you're going to get a lot out of this. And by the end, I'm going to ask you, was it worth your time? And I promise you it's going to be. So now I have to deliver on that standard. So let's jump into it. The big question today is, how do we help students develop perseverance, tenacity, grit? How do we help our students do that? And as principals, how do we help our teachers also develop that perseverance? And how do we ourselves develop that perseverance? So it's kind of a principle that goes all the way up and down. How do we help our students, the teachers, and admin? How do we stick with it when times are tough? And ultimately, the goal is to teach that to the students, right? We want the students to walk away with perseverance. If there's one skill they need in school, one skill, you know, reading, important, writing, math, these are essential skills. But if they don't have perseverance, then they can't learn these other skills. So perseverance is the key. So that's the big question. How are we going to develop this skill in our students? Now, here's what we need to do. To start it up, what we're going to do is we're going to have you jump in on Twitter. So if you could, jump in on Twitter really quick, because I want some input from you. This is my Twitter handle right here, at ACDC Leadership, or if you just type in Jacob Clifford, I'll be the first person that pops up. But what I want you to do is I want you to tweet me out the answer to this question. What causes students to give up in school? So what are the events that take place, or what happens to students when they give up? Now, make sure you understand, I'm not talking about high school, like dropping out of high school. I'm talking about students becoming disengaged. In other words, it's the opposite of perseverance, right? You know, you want students to persevere. We're going to talk about what causes them to not persevere. What causes them to kind of just give up? Whether it's a lesson and they give up in a lesson, whether it's, you know, a unit and they just kind of give up on a unit, or they give up on school in general. They think, I don't even want to be here. This is a waste of my time. Or they just become disengaged. So there's the question for you. Jump on Twitter and make sure to send that ACDC Leadership at ACDC Leadership, and make sure to add in the NAESP's handle as well. And in a few minutes, I'm going to find out what you're saying. And then, most importantly, I'm going to share out some ideas and how we can get students to avoid having those experiences and our teachers to avoid these same experiences. So type that out, send it to me, and I promise to get back to it in about 3 minutes here. As we're talking about that, let me go a different direction. I want you to think of your favorite class that you've ever taught as a teacher or as an admin. If you've been at multiple schools, what is your favorite group that you've worked with? And I know it sounds weird, like, you know, who's your favorite child? You can't really rank them per se, but we know our favorites. We know those times where just things were good, right? And so what are the characteristics of your favorite class or your favorite coworkers that you've worked with over the years, right? And as I go around the country, I ask this question. I get a lot of the same answers. And the answers usually, and they never do, revolve around test scores, right? Oh, my favorite students were the ones that did great on test scores. That just doesn't work. And it has nothing to do with being void of challenges, right? My favorite class I've ever taught was a group of students who were English language learners. They struggled, but the distance we covered, you know, was great for them, even though they still stayed relatively low, maybe to other groups of students. But we covered so much distance. We had this great experience. It's my favorite class, and that's been, geez, 7 years ago, and they're still my favorite class of all time. But the question is, what are the characteristics of that group? Well, as I go out and present, people give me these long lists, and, you know, they share out their ideas. It comes down to two variables, right? First one is community. Community is the idea students have a respect for each other, and they have a positive attitude, and they made the class fun. And now, if you're like me, you tell the same jokes all the time to different groups, right? You say that, you know, to parents or anybody else, you say the same jokes, and they laugh at your jokes and just feels comfortable. But sometimes you say the same joke, word for word, to a group, and you get nothing sometimes. Like, no one laughs at all. You just tell, like, So it's weird. Sometimes groups just have community. They start with community. And the other side is what I call buy-in. So in the classroom, this idea students want to learn. They want to do they want to, you know, participate. They saw the benefit of learning. So we've got two variables, community and buy-in. That means I can make a graph. This graph is the most important graph. It applies to every classroom in your school, and it applies to your actual school as well. Obviously, where we want to be is up here in the upper right-hand corner, right? We want to be where we have as much buy-in and much community as possible. And that's awesome. That's what we're looking for in any environment, is to feel comfortable and also be getting the job done at the same time. But it doesn't automatically start there. Things need to develop towards there. So one of the things I'll be sharing as we move forward about perseverance isn't, you can't just persevere, right? It takes a lot of plowing and preparation to get to the point where the teachers and the students can persevere, because they have community and they have buy-in. Everyone's on the same page from the beginning. So I guess the point here was I'm trying to share is right here, culture trumps strategy. So any strategy I give you today and that you share with your teachers, remind them an individual strategy you're using with your students is never as important as the culture you're creating in the classroom. Now, I want to point out, I didn't create that. That's something that a guy named Bill Daggett says all the time. Culture trumps the strategy. But I want you to keep that in mind as we move forward here. All the strategies I'm going to share with you, they're great, they're awesome, they're going to help you, and please share them with your teachers. But ultimately, creating that culture with community and buy-in is the most important thing. And you know this as an admin, and this is what you do constantly. How do I develop community with my parents and with the teachers and with all the other stakeholders as well? I want to point out really quickly, I am not an administrator. I don't want to pretend like I know how hard your job is. I'm a classroom teacher. So for me, I'm just going to give you ideas. I'm just going to give you strategies and ideas, and please feel free to take them on to your teachers and, most importantly, ultimately to the students. To talk about this idea of buy-in, I want to share a quick story. Now, remember, make sure to tweet in. I'm still going to collect these. Remember, the question was, when do students give up in school? So tweet those ones, and remember, handles ACDC Leadership, or type in Jacob Clifford if you just come in to the webinar. But let me give you an example really quick of buy-in and how important it is. If you're Canadian, which you probably aren't, but if you're Canadian, you've heard of Shreddies. But if you're not Canadian, you've never heard of Shreddies. It's a square wheat cereal, as you see on your screen, and it's only offered in Canada, New Zealand, and the UK, and I don't know why. You can't get it in the United States, but it's made by Post. Like, it's a legit cereal. And back in 2007, they were trying to get people to eat and buy more of these, and they they're trying to figure out, how do we get people to, have more Shreddies and buy more Shreddies. And a guy named Hunter Somerville came up with an ad, like to get people to buy more Shreddies. Here's what he came up with, okay? It's right here, Diamond Shreddies. I'm pausing. Hopefully you're laughing at this because this is absolutely hilarious. It's hilarious, right? They didn't change the product. They just advertise it as now, ooh, Diamond Shreddies, making it new and exciting. The reason why this is so important is I want you to keep in mind that you are in sales. Next time someone asks you, what do? Don't say you're an educator. Don't say you're a principal or assistant principal. Say, I'm in sales. I sell education, right? That's what I do. I sell economics to a bunch of students who don't particularly want economics, but I sell it to them. So as we move forward, keep in mind the idea of buy-in, people don't automatically get bought into things. They need to be bought in, right? They need to have a reason. There needs to be a sales pitch, so to speak. So in the classroom, I share this with teachers. Sales pitch number one, okay, let's get to work. We have to cover this chapter. Students maybe take out their book. You start doing whatever you're doing. Not very exciting, but takes the same amount of breath to say, this is going to be awesome. You're really going to love this chapter, right? A little bit of salesmanship goes a long way. And there's all sorts of studies I can talk about economists, about how, you don't have to change the product. Just change the way it's perceived. Anyways, so that's the idea as we move forward. We're talking about developing community and getting students to buy in and getting your teachers to buy in. We got to think of ourselves as salesmen and saleswomen. So I'll give you a quick strategy. All right, strategy number one. I share this again with teachers, but I think it applies to admin just as much. What do most teachers do the first day? Now, at the high school level and the middle school level, it's always almost the same. It's usually, the syllabus, right? And a lot of times principals, what do principals do the first day? A lot of times it's some of the boring things the superintendent brings down. So, okay, we got to look at our data, or we're going to do some things. Here's a new idea. Here's a new strategy. Strategy I tell my teachers is teach your best lesson the first day. From the very beginning, I'm not going to help you here in December. Let's be honest. That doesn't help you now. But it's something to keep in mind, right? From the very beginning, always have a sales pitch. Be selling it to your teachers, selling it to your students. So I tell every teacher I've ever worked with, before I talk about any other strategy, keep in mind, we've got to get our students to buy in from day one. I promise to come back to the same idea later on. So you're going to see this theme later on in a few minutes as we jump into more strategies. Here's the point, though, and I think this is the big takeaway of what I'm trying to share. For every sale you miss because you're too enthusiastic, you'll miss 100 because you're not enthusiastic enough. You want to persevere. You want your students to persevere. You want your teachers to persevere. I'll keep this in mind. You've got to keep the energy up. You've got to stay enthusiastic. We're all tired. We're run down each year. You want to persevere? You got to bring that excitement, and students and teachers will respond. It is impossible to be overly enthusiastic about education, right? It's impossible. Try it. See if it works. Go in next time you're in a group of parents and you're presenting something, try to be overly enthusiastic. And for every one parent that's like, geez, that lady is way too enthusiastic. You have one or two that are like that. You'll have 20 on the back end. You have 20 other parents like, wow, I'm so glad our kids go to that school with that administrator. Oh my gosh, you see how enthusiastic they are? So we got to keep that in mind as we move forward. The most important thing is to stay enthusiastic, to stay excited, because once you start losing your energy, the teachers lose their energy. Once the teachers lose their energy, then the students start losing energy, and then we're just moping through and trying to get through the school year. Okay. Oh, I got to finish the story. This is the best part. Some people in Canada wrote in and actually complained. They actually, how dare you, change the cereal, but you never really changed the cereal. And it's hilarious because, they didn't quite get the joke. But the cereal maker decided to make everybody happy by making these. These are Diamond Shreddies, the combo pack. So you can pick whichever one you want. You can pick the square or the Diamond Shreddies out of here, which is absolutely hilarious. Again, it's pretty ingenious way of getting people to buy in. So that's my example of buying. You don't have to change your school. You don't have to renovate the school. You don't have to change the faculty, right? It's not about making a big change. It's about the perceived change, right? So parents, they have a perception, and that perception can change if it's sold properly to them, right? So keep that in mind as we move forward. All right, all that said, it is now time to do a quick activity. Remember, so I'm still waiting for your tweets as you tweet in that we're going to get to this. The question is, why do students give up in school? All right, so the handle is at ACDC Leadership, and of course at NAESP. So feel free to let me know on Twitter why students give up, or why do your students give up in school?
Jacob?
Let's do a quick activity.
Jacob, okay? Before you begin your activity, we had a couple people write in their responses. Lori said, no, I'm sorry, Levette says, sometimes students give up because they feel that others don't care.
Yeah, we're gonna go over that whole list. We're gonna be going over that whole list right after the activity.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you for writing those in. In fact, Honor, I'm going to ask you to read some of those once we get to that list. It'll be after the activity. Be coming right up. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. So let's do this quick activity, and this is going to catapult us into this whole idea of perseverance and how to not give up. Okay, so we're going to do the activity together. What I want you to do is drop your pencil or pen, whatever you have in front of you. You got to drop it for this because you're going to need your hands. So here we go. Here's what I want you to do. Just one-handed, what I want you to do is I want you to put your thumb out, put it away, then your pinky out. So thumb out, put it away, pinky out. Just one hand looks like this. Okay, so try this on your own. We've got 3 rounds here. This is just round 1. All right, that's what you're doing. Perfect. Okay. Now, I want 2 hands. So round 2, 2 hands, same thing. Thumbs out, put them away, pinkies out. Put them away, thumbs out, put them away, pinkies out. All right? So this is what you're doing in round 2. Great. Now, normally I get to watch you when you're in the room with me, but I'm assuming you're doing this right now in front of the screen. All right, that was round 2. Round 3. In round 3, here's what I want you to do. Same thing except alternate hands. So thumb out, pinky out, put it away, thumb out, pinky out. Okay, looks like this. All right, go ahead and try. You tried? Okay, I hope so. Okay. That was it. That was round 3. This is an example of experiential learning. I am huge in this idea of what's called experiential learning, to experience something, then have a debrief session that talks about what's the point, what's the connection, okay? So as you saw, right, this is what you were supposed to be able to do. Here's the big takeaway. And at this point with students, I have a different takeaway than what I'm going to do with you. There's a different debrief. But I'd ask students questions like, was it hard? What made it hard? Was it easy in round 3, and why was it hard? And then who's really good at this? And the question I always ask is, who's really good at this? And everyone looks in the room and they go, okay, I don't know. And well, look, who's good at this? Me. I'm good at it. And what am I? I'm the teacher. I'm really good at economics. I'm really good at economics. To me, it's easy. To you, you go slower, and it takes more time, and it's probably really hard. And that's okay. The reason why I'm good is because I went to college for this. I went to college for economics, right? Now, that's not the direction I'm going to go with this activity for you. I'm going to go a different direction, okay? Here's the question. Did you participate? Right? You know, you can answer this question without tweeting the answer to me or leaving the comments. Ask yourself, did you participate? If you didn't, be careful. You're the kind of person that maybe doesn't have that perseverance. You know what I'm saying? And more importantly, ask yourself why you didn't. Not because, like, you know, don't think if you didn't participate, then you're a bad person. That's what I'm saying is, why didn't you? It's the same thing you're tweeting to me. It's the same, why don't students participate? Right? When you think like, this is stupid. Why is he making us do this? Was that your thought? Or were you like, you know, it's too hard, or I'm too busy with something else. I'm working on this email, and this email is really important, right? Or is it something else? Now, for those of you who did participate, what happened in round 3? Right? So in round 1, everyone can do round 1, right? That's not hard. In round 2, most people can do round 2. What happened in round 3? Did you put your hands down? Were you like, oh, yeah, I can't do it, right? Or did you at least try? Did you look at your hands like, okay, nah? Did you try, right? Because believe it or not, these are skills. Perseverance is a skill. It's not something that you either have or don't have. It's not you persevere and you don't persevere, right? It's a skill that needs to be learned. So I'm starting this whole discussion about perseverance, talking about your willingness to persevere, and most importantly, your willingness to participate. So as you move forward into this presentation, participate, right? Send in those tweets and get mentally involved with some of the things I'm going to share with you, because I promise you they're going to help you. And they're going to help your teachers, and most importantly, they're going to help your students. So I want to start off that activity. I call this the thumbs activity. I am going to come back to it later on and how I use it more in the classroom later on. You'll see when we get there. Anyways, that said, let's open up the question again. On Twitter, the question was, when do students give up in school? Honor, as I pull this up, do you want to go ahead and jump out and read some of those statements that people said in the comments?
Sure, sure. Again, going back, Lavette said sometimes students give up because they feel that others don't care. And then Tanya wrote in, they often quit when things get hard.
Yeah, those are great. Thank you, Honor. Here's another one from Jamie Cantrell. She said they struggle with a concept when they're just totally struggling, or when there's effects of trauma and neglect. Jason said that, and that's true. Danielle said not feeling connected to the teacher. Jason said the classroom environment or the teacher or the relationships, the teaching methods aren't connecting them. Lavette said students sometimes give up because they don't think anyone cares, right? We got a lot of these. I'm sorry if I'm ignoring you. I'm not trying to on these ones. But students quit because they don't feel like a matter of learning and growing matters. They have formed meaningful relationships with peers, or they don't have a meaningful relationship with peers or adults at school. Or there's baggage at home. Molly, that's a great way of putting it. Molly White said because there's just baggage at home. Right? These are all great points that people are pointing out. Personal problems causing students to give up. Students give up school when they don't see the point of learning. Students give up school when they don't get timely feedback. That's all by Dwight. Thank you, first of all, from your message on Twitter. I've been around the country, and I surveyed my own students, and I asked this same question. When do students give up? And the list you're about to see, first of all, those were awesome, what you told me. You're going to see a lot of those same ideas are inside the list I'm about to show you. But this list of 6 things that are in no particular order are the ones I'm going to be talking about and sharing about how we can get students to persevere by recognizing the things that cause them to give up. If you can recognize the areas that might cause them to give up, then we can teach them skills to persevere. So here's the list that I have, the list of 6. First one, when they're facing other issues. Like Molly said, when there's some other baggage at home, when they're afraid of making mistakes or it's just too hard, when they don't see the benefits of school or a specific subject, or how about when they think the teacher's being unfair? And then another one is when they're not motivated, which is a huge concept, which I'll get to. And then last one, when they're not connected, when they don't feel like they have friends or they don't have a relationship with an adult or somebody else on campus. Now, there's the list. It's by no means a comprehensive list of all the things, but these are the ones I'm going to focus on. And here's what we're going to do for the remainder of our time together. I'm going to give you strategies for each one of these. Here's the way you can address this in the classroom, but also with your teachers, all the way down the line. I'm just giving you strategy after strategy in your classroom. Now, before I move forward, I want you to keep in mind, I really believe in this with all my heart. There is no silver bullet to teaching. I don't know your school, how your school is made up. I don't know, I have a Title I school, but I don't know what your students are like. I don't know your philosophy for education, your teacher's philosophy. I don't know what you're dealing with. So like we saw with the Diamond and Square Shreddies, I can't possibly tell you what you're doing is right or wrong. All I can give you is strategies and ideas. So what I'm going to do here, just go, hey, try this, right? Maybe this is boring, but try this instead. I'm going to just give you strategy after strategy that you can share with your teachers that also apply to you as an administrator. So keep that in mind as we move forward. There's no silver bullets, but here's some things that will help your students persevere and some big concepts that they have to watch out for, right? Our list right here of 6 things. So let's go ahead and start it up. Number 1, so again, what we're doing is I'm going to go over the list of 6 things. I'm just going to give you strategies, all right? Strategies. If you want to chat in questions, you're more than welcome to. If you want to tweet in questions, you can more than welcome to as well. What do we do for reason number 1 when they're facing other issues, when there's problems at home? Well, we can't solve the problems, right? So let's take a step back. We can't solve the problems. There's going to be poverty. There's going to be kids with divorce and other issues and baggage and problems. So there's only one thing we can do, and it's strategy number 1, and it's the great commandment for teachers. The great commandment for teachers is know thy students, right? Know thy students. What does that mean? It's just having a personal connection. It comes to learning names as soon as possible and getting to know the students, doing get-to-know-you activities in the beginning of the school year, having some one-on-one time with students. If you've heard of that strategy, the 2x10 strategy, where you take 2 minutes a day to work with, it's 2 minutes a day, 10 days in a row with your most at-risk students. So this is a teaching in the classroom strategy where, teachers need to, set aside some time to talk to some at-risk students or just pick some students. Okay, I'm going to talk to the students for 2 minutes, but it has nothing to do with school. Don't be like, oh, did you get the homework last night? I mean, some kid doesn't want to talk about that. But, oh, I saw your, shirt. You like Spider-Man? Did you see the new movie? Spider-Man, what do you think? And then you're connecting to them. And they've done some studies on this. It's called the 2x10 strategy, where they found out these at-risk students are more likely to be engaged and more likely to be connected because they feel, they have a connection to the student, to the teacher, and most importantly, the teacher kind of knows the student, and then if something's going on at home, they can say, okay, you've been gone for so many days. Is everything okay? And obviously, you don't ask for information from students that is not warranted, but kids are more likely to open up. It's been really tough. We've kind of been in and out of our house, and the kids will share things, and it'll help the teacher realize that it's not about you at all. It's not even about the class. It's not a kid who's acting up might not have anything to do at all with the classroom. And we all know this. Now, let's connect this to being an admin. Okay, so again, I usually focus with teachers, but let's focus. Some of your teachers on your campus, any issues, anytime you're butting heads with some teacher and you're trying to change the schedule, oh gosh, you ever try to do that? Or something else, you butt heads, sometimes people, it might have nothing to do with school. It might have nothing to do at all with school. It might have something to do, and often does, with other issues at home. So how do you solve the problem as the admin? Well, get to know your teachers, right? We hired a new principal 2 years ago. He knew everyone's name so fast. Like he'd be, hey, how you doing, Jacob? He didn't just call me Mr. Clifford. He'd go, hey, how you doing, Jacob? How are things? He asked me all sorts, and he just knew me, and it kind of would weird me out. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of like, oh, kind of weirded out. But the truth was, you could tell he spent his time to invest in us, and that made a huge difference in the end. So this principle applies all the way up and down for the teachers to know the students, for the admin to know the teachers, and for your superintendent to know you. And if you're a superintendent, you feel distant from your superintendent, go reach out to them, right? Feel that connection, because that means you're more likely to go to each other for help when you need help, right? So that's important stuff. That's important stuff to keep in mind. But again, ultimately, we don't have very much control over what happens in our students' private lives. All we can do is get to know them. That makes all the difference. So to persevere, number one, we got to get to know our students, right? To help know what's going on in their lives. That was number one. Number two, when they're afraid of making mistakes, let me tell you a quick story. I've got two sons, David and James, and they one day invited me to go to the local skate park to go ride those razor scooters, those razor scooters. And we get there, and there's all these little kids. They're all like under 10 years old, and they're doing jumps and spinning the things. They're all skateboarders. They're all flying through the air. And I brought my skateboard because, back in the 80s, I used to skateboard, at least on the street, and I thought I was good. And I was like, oh, I'll go and have fun. And I get there, and I see all these little kids doing all this stuff, and all I wanted to do was drop in, right? I just if you've seen skaters, you just kind of drop into this pool just once. And I couldn't. I just sat on the side. My son's like, hey, Dad, come try. And they're falling and trying things because they're new. They don't know what they're doing, but they're trying. Like, Dad, come try. And I decided, no, I don't want to. But inside, I really wanted to. But the difference, the thing that kept me back was just my fear of looking stupid, my fear of making a mistake. This is a huge problem when it comes to perseverance for students. And it's a problem for adults, right? I'm an adult. I know this. I know better. I know that I should just go for it. But even as I was doing this, I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. And I still couldn't get over that initial fear. How do we help our students persevere when they're so afraid of making mistakes, about looking stupid in front of other students, right? Well, some strategies. Reduce the fear, right? So again, I don't think this is a problem with elementary school as much as it's with middle and high school, and hopefully it's not a problem anywhere. But the idea is when students are, when it's about their grade or about their performance or just that's all it's about at the high school, middle school level, then students don't realize the purpose of what we're doing, and they're always afraid of making mistakes and losing that grade. At the elementary school level, you guys are awesome about this. Okay, we messed up. Cool, let's move forward. And so when a child messes up on anything, whether it's whatever you do, right, it's about fostering this idea, yeah, you messed up. We all mess up. And admitting when you mess up as well, right? And I call it the rule of three. When, I'm explaining something to you and you can't do it, and whose fault is that? I always ask my students, whose fault is you can't do this? Well, it's my fault. I explained it and you can't do it. That's my fault, right? And then we try it again and we're doing something else with it and they still don't get it. Still my fault. But at some point, as we keep practicing things, eventually it comes off my shoulders and starts going onto your shoulders, right? Is that 3 or 4 or 5 times? I don't know. 10,000 times? I don't know. But the idea that when I teach it, you should automatically get it is unrealistic, right? completely unrealistic, and we all know that. How do we know that? Well, we just did it with this activity. Same thing. This is how I use this in the classroom. Remember this? Let's go try round 3 over again. So drop your book, drop your whatever you're working on, go ahead and drop it, and let's do round 3, all right? Looks like this. Here we go, all right? Thumb out, pinky out, put it away, thumb out, pinky out, thumb out, pinky out, just like this. You tried it? You participating? Now, if you can't do it, are you stupid? No. Are you an idiot? Are you worthless? No, not even close. It's just a matter of practice. Now, the students who walk into your school, they see the teachers reading. Teachers can read. It's so easy. How can you read and write? It's so easy for you. Yeah, but there was a time not that long ago where I struggled with reading and writing. And for me, I had to go, hold on. Yeah, okay, right? And I struggled through it, and you struggled through it, right? And the students are currently struggling through it. We have to create an atmosphere with our students that making mistakes is not only going to happen, it better happen, right? You better make mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, that means you're not growing. So if we can create that idea in the classroom, perseverance becomes easy, because perseverance isn't just about, oh, I got to persevere through the hard times. It's the hard times are what allowing me to get better at this. So it's actually seeing the problem differently and realizing I'm messing up is actually a good thing. So if we can train our students to keep that in mind, if you can train your teachers to keep in mind, that's okay, right? So let's go back and talk about this as a principle. As you're moving forward and implementing things in the classroom, and you see, or implementing policies, and you see a teacher who's not particularly good at that policy or not good at that strategy, or whatever you see as something that a teacher might be struggling with, keep that in mind with them. Keep in mind, well, we told you, you better be able to do this now. Keep in mind, listen, if you're struggling, that's okay. How can I help you? Right? Let's practice, right? So keep that in mind. This idea applies to all of us. I tell people in my workshop this idea. You will always be at the fringe of your capabilities, right? So it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a kid, you're an adult, you'll always be at the fringe of your capabilities. Because once you get this, great. Now try the next thing, right? So try this one. It's a triple. Ooh, I messed it up. See? There we go. I learned this on a plane once to a workshop, and the guy sitting next to me was kind of weirded out. So I'm doing the same thing, except now I'm doing a kind of a triple. Now you look at me, and you're like, oh, how could he do that? It's not that hard. You just got to practice, right? It's just the process of practice is what makes you good at things. And once you get good at that, you have to do the next thing and the next thing. So there is no teacher that's that understands all economics or all English, or there's no amazing teacher that can teach all students. We just get better over time, and as we practice, we get better. If you have new teachers, keep that in mind. New teachers are going to make mistakes, a lot of mistakes. You made a lot of mistakes. Keep that in mind. How can I help you practice? Because once you get good at this, here comes another thing, right? Let's keep that in mind as we move forward. And we talk about professional development. Professional development is not, oh, there's this new thing we have to learn. No, it's this new skill that's going to make you better, that's going to add on to your old skills. And most importantly, it's going to help students learn. So basically, in the classroom, I say mastering skills requires practice. Don't give up when it becomes hard. And I use this experiential learning activity to drive home that concept. I also do another experiential learning activity. This one's just a video. So it's a video about Jerry Rice. So you know who Jerry Rice is. So take a look at this video. At the end, I'll talk about the connection to the classroom and to perseverance. Okay, take a look. Okay, so I'm not sure if you know about Jerry Rice. The students wouldn't know who Jerry Rice is, of course, but was Jerry Rice a very good football player? Well, yeah. I mean, look at the stats. All-time leader in receptions, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, and voted the greatest NFL football player of all time, like the best one. It was between him and Jim Brown. The point is, though, what can you say about Jerry Rice? He made a lot of mistakes. This is the best guy ever, the best football player ever, and he was dropping balls, right? And some of those balls he dropped were in the Super Bowl. So he makes mistakes, we make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes, get over it. We have to train ourselves first to realize, listen, I messed up. And we have to own up to those when we do mess up if it involves other people. And we have to train our coworkers and forgive our coworkers when they mess up, right? And lift them up when they mess up. And most importantly, those students need to be taught that you're going to make mistakes, and mistakes are a good thing, right? So when a student says, well, it's just too hard, listen, that's okay that it's hard. That means you're growing. If it was too easy, you wouldn't be growing. If we keep telling students that, it's going to sink in. Okay, so far, 2 things we've talked about. Remember, there's only 6 of these. Number 1, we got to get to know our students, right? The strategy was know your students. Number 2 is reduce the fear. This, again, elementary school, you guys are great about this. I know this because I've got a lot of kids, and they go through elementary school, public school, and you can just tell their teachers are really good about teaching them, you know, it's okay to mess up sometimes. And so I'm proud of what you're already doing, and I think it's awesome. I think there's been great strides in the last 40 years in public education that's switched from just rote memorization stuff now to, you know, more teaching these skills, these life skills that are really going to help students. And so you're already doing a great job. And admin, you guys are doing a great job teaching those teachers how to do that. So keep doing what you're doing. Number 3, when they don't see the benefits of school, right? Why am I here? They don't see, so someone had tweeted in, you know, when a student doesn't see the benefit of why they have to, you know, learn spelling, right? There's a computer that does the spelling for me, or why it is not bought in. So strong teachers don't teach content. Google has content. Strong teaching connects learning in ways that inspire kids to learn more and strive for greatness. So every one of the students on your campus, right? Even, I mean, the youngest ones, kids in kindergarten, you know, they're using cell phones too, but all of them are comfortable with this technology. And when I was a kid, obviously, most of you, when you were a kid, this technology didn't exist. Right? You didn't have easy access. Oh, what's the capital of, you know, Nebraska? Boop, there it is. Right? But the kids will ask, okay, why do we need to know this? Like, I can grab my mom's cell phone and I can get the information anytime for these things. So I usually focus, like I said, in high school, middle school, and that applies anyways. Students ask themselves, why are we learning these things? Like, why does a freshman in high school need to learn, like, algebra? Why? Yes, a scientist uses algebra. True. But why do I need to know algebra if I haven't used, and I, personally, me, Jacob Clifford, I haven't used the quadratic formula in years, right? Why on earth did I learn algebra? So kids want to know, why am I learning this? What's the point, right? And that's a good question. We have to have a good answer. So the question here is, if very few students will use the content we teach every day, again, that applies maybe to more high school, obviously, because your students will read every day and they'll be using it. But social science is a good example. Why do I have to know, you know, the history of California? Why do you need to know the history of whatever they teach at your state? The point is, you need, and me, and this is what I do in my workshops, to train teachers to have a sales pitch for everything they do. So I tell teachers, what is the sales pitch for 3rd grade? Or what is the sales pitch for 3rd grade? Or whatever you teach. So I get in partners and really quickly share out, what is the sales pitch on why on earth kids should be in 3rd grade? Why shouldn't they just stay at home and just learn off the internet? Right? Why should they be in school? Right? We have to have a really good, solid answer. And then we need to have, why are we learning this unit? Well, because the government says we have to learn this. No. Why are we learning this? What's the point of it? Why are we learning math? Why are we learning science? What's the purpose? Why? Now, a lot of times your teachers do this automatically, but I always ask teachers, how often do you say that sales pitch? Right? How often do you say that 2-sentence sales pitch on why on earth students should be learning whatever you're teaching them? Right? We should be mentioning it every single day. Every single day we should mention, here's a sales pitch, here's why we're doing this. Admin, for you, sell it to us. I'm a teacher. Sell me your ideas. Help me understand why we're applying a new policy, or why we're trying something new, or why we're doing something. Sell it to me in such a way where I understand, okay, I have to do this, yes, and you hired me and it's my job, I have to do this. But sell it to me in such a way, I think of the Diamond Shreddies, sell it to me in such a way to where I'll be like, you know what, I understand why we're doing this. Then repeat it as much as you physically can. Tell them, here's the reason we're doing this. Here's how it's going to benefit kids. Here's how it's going to benefit you as teachers. So we got to sell it. So again, the idea here is having a sales pitch for everything you do. Every lesson, every unit, every course, every policy, everything you do should have a really concise sales pitch. And it shouldn't just be like, to help students learn. But to help students learn is just too broad. It's got to be more specific, right? And why it actually matters. I made this as a joke, and again, maybe this more applies to high school, but what you say. Sometimes students say, you know, I hate math or I hate English. And I have right here a translation. Again, this is more of a joke than anything, but I think it's applicable here. A student that says, I hate math is really trying to say, I hate problem solving and learning from my mistakes. Because that's all math is. Math is problem solving. We use numbers to teach problem solving skills and where you messed up and how do you move forward after you messed up. That's all math really is. So a student that says, I hate math is really trying to say, I hate learning this key skill that I'll be using for the rest of my life. I hate English is saying, I hate reading and effectively communicating with others. It's like, I'll never do that. Of course you're going to do that for the rest of your life. I hate science is, I hate thinking objectively and figuring out how things work. I hate history is, I hate knowing who I am and how I got here. I hate foreign language. I hate other cultures and developing a skill that can give me a better job someday. I hate PE is, I hate being healthy. And ultimately, a kid who says, I hate school is saying, I hate staying focused, working hard, multitasking, and applying skills that will decrease the likelihood that my life will suck. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to our job is to make students' lives better. That's it, right there. We're going to make your life better. Education is going to make you better, not just because you're smarter, because I'm going to give you skills, perseverance being the most important one, that's going to make you have a better life. You're going to be better in your relationships, in your marriage. You're going to be better as a worker. You're going to find hopefully a better job. These are all things that school does for you. And if a student says, I hate science, I hate math, if a student says, I hate school, then ultimately they're not being given the right sales pitch by their teachers, right? They're not being told what is school. If you say, oh, I hate school, it's like, well, what is it you hate about school? You don't understand what it's there for, right? Does it make sense? Anyways, I'm going to keep moving on. The strategy here is connect every lesson to what really matters and have a sales pitch. For everything you do, have a sales pitch. Now, super fast, because I want to keep you guys engaged, we're going to have a quick poll question. Here's the poll question. What % of the teachers on your campus go out of their way to sell every lesson and unit? So I want you to think of the teachers on your campus and think how many of them really sell and go out of the way to sell a lesson. Now, I don't know what you're going to have as your answer here. In fact, if you all say 100%, then it tells me, oh, geez, that you're all done. This principle is done. You totally have faculty on your campus that know exactly how to do this. So go ahead and poll and let us know what you think is happening on your campus when it comes to selling every single lesson and every single unit. You might want to add yourself to that. Ask yourself, how much do you sell the policies and the ideas that you're pushing forward to your faculty? You say, okay, we got to do this. Ask yourself this question. How much does your superintendent sell it to you? Does your superintendent sell it to you? Do they really go, okay, here's why we're doing this, and here's the value, and here's the benefit, and they make you really believe in it, where you're like, yeah, this is the course of action because this is the best course of action for our students. So the poll is going to close here in a second so we can get our results and we can move forward. We've got about 17 or so minutes left. We've got about 12 minutes left before, and I have to finish off the last 3. So let's close up the poll and find out what people said. Here it is, 39%, 33, 22, and 6%. I'm not sure if that's surprising to you. It's interesting, though, don't you think? So basically, you know, we've got a third-ish, a third, and a third. So we've got a third of you say 25% or less, and then a third kind of in the middle, and the third kind of that top half. It's interesting. If there's one thing you can take away from this webinar, one thing take away is to sell it. Go out there and sell it to get your teachers to buy in, because you can persevere when you're bought in. I'll tell you what, it's hard to persevere when you're not bought in. When you're tired, when it's the end of the semester, when it's the end of the year, it's hard to buy in to anything. All right, so here we go. Let's jump back in to this. Number 4, when you think the teacher's being unfair. So this one I did not come up with. This is the students telling me when they give up in school is when the teacher's being unfair. So, you know, how do we solve that problem? Well, really quick, I have another quick video that I want to show you here. This one, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I don't want to lose time on the back end. But basically, there's these two monkeys inside this cage, and these two cages, and they have a task. They have to give the laboratory worker gives them the rock, and the monkey has to give them back the rock. And all you had to know for this activity or for this video is that these monkeys prefer grapes. They'll eat cucumbers, but they prefer grapes. Go ahead and watch this.
So she gives a rock to us, that's the task, and we give her a piece of cucumber and she eats it. The other one needs to give a rock to us, and that's what she does. And she gets a grape, and she eats it. The other one sees that. She gives a rock to us now, gets again cucumber.
So what does that mean? I think you know exactly what it means, right? If we're seeing that in primates and animals, then we should recognize that in our own species, right? You know, when things are unfair, it just feels gross. So strategy here is obviously be fair. Give very clear expectations and rubrics. That's why when you evaluate teachers, there's a very clear rubric. You're not just evaluating on their, on their face and on what they did. You really, here's the rubric. While we collaborate with other teachers, these are the things we got to think, are we being fair? Because the second you're not being fair, you're going to lose buy-in and you're going to lose perseverance. Okay, reason number 5, when students are apathetic, when they just don't care, right? When they're not motivated. I know I'm going a little quicker here, but like I said, I'm down to about 6 minutes here. This is something called Csikszentmihalyi's flow model. You don't need to know it or read about the psychology. You do need to know this idea, though. If you see here on this grid, the skill level is on the bottom. When our students have a high skill, and on the left, on the y-axis, they have a hard challenge, then they'll have what's called flow. Flow is what you want students to experience, because flow means you're into it. It's hard, but you're good, and you're into it. If your students are scared, it's because they have a high challenge level, or they have anxiety. It's because there's a high challenge level, but they don't have very much skill. If the kids are down here, if a student or teacher or anybody has apathy, they don't care, it's because they're not being challenged and they don't have very much skill, right? So this show, and if you go read up on this on your own time, it's fascinating stuff to talk about how do you create flow. And this researcher basically figured out there's 3 things. To achieve flow, to get students really into anything, you got to have them have very clear goals and direction and structure. Here's what we're doing, right? So they understand here's the benchmarks. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. Number 2, they need to have immediate feedback. And number 3, they have a good balance between what they think they can do and what they can actually do. Let's go focus on number 2. It's all about feedback. You want your students to persevere. You want your teachers to persevere. You want to persevere. Feedback, right? Give feedback. How often do you give feedback back to your faculty, right? So let's focus this entirely on you as an administrator. How often are you giving feedback? Now, positive feedback as well as constructive feedback, but how often do you get, are you an administrator that's inside the classroom, that's seeing classes being taught, that's involved, that's saying, okay, I saw what you do with your students, that was really great, and just sending out notes all the time, right? Because I'll tell you, when you get those notes from your administrator as a teacher, it feels great to feel like, okay, someone recognizes all that hard work I'm putting in to this job, and that's more likely to get me up to do more hard work the next day. It's not the money. I mean, come on, we're not getting paid very much as teachers. It's not like the money is what's getting me to do it. It's sometimes it's the connection to students, but sometimes that little extra boost of someone else being like, you know what, keep it up, man. So feedback is absolutely important when it comes to this idea of experiencing flow, and it helps to keep people motivated. Now, there's more things I want to do with this. I'm going to have to skip through them for time purposes. I am going to show you this, though. This was a worksheet that my son was given back in 2nd grade. And I usually talk a little about, how to do some authentic assessment stuff in the workshop, but I only have an hour. Normally I have a whole day for my workshop. But basically my son was given this worksheet around this time when he was in 2nd grade. This is years ago. And he brings it home. He comes in to me I come home from work. He goes, Dad, look what I did in school. And he brought me this worksheet. And I was being a horrible dad. I'm like, oh, yeah, good, buddy, because I got a lot of kids. I get to handle a lot of paper. But he goes, no, Dad, look. So I actually look at the paper, and I go, okay, what is this? And I look at it and I see what you can see. Look how many times he erased. He erased, oh geez, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 times. This kid was experiencing flow. This teacher put him in a situation, so I want you to practice. The teacher probably let him stay for break and work through it, right? Maybe even, wanted to go to, grab a snack and then didn't. The teacher's like, listen, I'm going to let you work through this. My students learned something this year from this worksheet that stuck with them his whole life, and it will. Perseverance, right? This worksheet, one little tiny worksheet shows some perseverance. Now notice, it's the same as this. This is drill and kill, which is important sometimes. Sometimes you need drill and kill, but this right here was a worksheet that helped him realize he has to persevere, right, and stay motivated. The teacher gave him feedback. The teacher was like, did a great job. Look at you finally got it. Well done, right? And that's the kind of stuff that keeps students motivated, which is also stuff that keeps teachers motivated. I know it's tough at the end of the year, but keeping teachers motivated by giving them feedback, giving them opportunities to rise to a challenge. I got all sorts of things I want to share. I can't. Oh no, I'm running out of time. All right, number 6, and here's my last one. When students are not connected, right? And here's the strategy: building classroom community. So obviously, teachers need to be friendly and need to play games or play music or make class traditions. These are things that apply to your school. Developing that school community. Be honest. You might be thinking, oh, it's too late. If we don't have a community at the beginning of the year, then we don't have it, for the rest of the year. But it's never too late, right? It's never too late to be enthusiastic. But as you plan for next school year, keep in mind, something in the beginning of the year to help develop community is essential. If your faculty goes out and has a few drinks or goes out to, happy hour or goes and eats together, invite more people to do that, because being connected to your faculty makes a huge difference. Now, I don't drink, and I go to mine even though I don't drink, but it's the idea being together with other people that makes a huge difference, because then you're working with friends, not just with colleagues. Playing games is key. Every teacher should have just a huge set of games on like a game bank. There's some resources that I want to share and some videos I want to share that I'm not going to have time, but I do have a boot camp program. There's this packet that I have if you're interested in more activities, this experiential learning activity and a ton more activity that apply to learning skills. If you're interested in this stuff, of course, let me know if this works for you. I am absolutely thrilled to share this quick webinar with you. I actually lead all sorts of workshops, so if you're interested, a lot of times our school district will pair up, multiple schools will have me come in and work with their teachers. So if this is something that you're interested in, having me come work with your teachers face-to-face and actually build some of that community and focus on these strategies, I would absolutely be thrilled to come and work with your teachers. So you have my contact information in case you're interested in setting that up and doing that. But basically, these are some of the workshops I talked about: teaching academic perseverance. Today, you got a 45-minute chunk of something that's normally a full day workshop. 10 ways to get students to buy in, which is also a one-day workshop. But anyways, my name is Jacob Clifford. Feel free to follow me on Twitter and take a look at my YouTube channel as well. I do some really cool things on YouTube. But right now, we're going to switch to questions. So these were the 6 things we focused on today. I want you to think about how your school is doing and how you're doing as an individual on these areas. Knowing your teachers and your teachers knowing the students, reducing that fear, connecting every lesson, getting students to buy in, getting your teachers to buy in, being fair, getting students to experience flow, and having them engaged and giving back that feedback and developing community. These are all things that will help us stay engaged and have perseverance. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to switch over to some questions. So like I said, more information, skillbuildingbootcamp.com. My name is Jacob Clifford. But if you have questions, go ahead and write them into the chat, and we can go from there. The first one was, what can an administrator do to encourage an apathetic, unmotivated teacher if feedback doesn't work? That is a great question, right? How do you, and first of all, let me point out, I don't know exactly because I'm not an administrator. So this is my initial reaction and the conversations I've had. So I want to point that out. And it depends, just like the students, depends on the teacher, right? Depends on the teacher. The first thing I would do, and I think this is what we've been talking about here, is to try to connect with them, right? The 2x10 strategy of, spending 2 minutes with 10 days in a row with your most at-risk students If that applies to students, then that's also going to apply to teachers. So find your at-risk teachers, the ones that maybe you don't, see eye to eye with, and go find them sometimes, interact with them, sit down with them if you could at lunch or at break, or find ways to sneak in there to interact with them and have no conversation about school. Talk about life. Ask them questions. Hey, you got grandkids? Or whatever you know about them, try to pull out some information and make that connection with them, because I think that connection ultimately will allow you to break some of those barriers. I don't think it would be appropriate to ask them, what's going on in your personal life, if there's personal life issues, obviously. But I think to get a relationship is the most important thing, whether it's the students or whether it's the teachers. Another question is, if you could suggest one strategy or activity to develop perseverance, which one would it be? Oh, man. I've got this, I've got all sorts of activities. So I don't know if I can do one. I can do 30. This one I think is my favorite, though. That's why I chose it for our purposes. The thumbs activity I think is really awesome because it's an activity that you get to experience. It takes less than 2 minutes. And most importantly, when I'm doing this with teachers, when I'm presenting, I can see who's not participating. And I can see right then and there who's like, and they're not moving their thumbs. And at the end, I talked about how it's the importance of participating, right? And ask yourself why you didn't participate. It gets people to reflect. Do some people not participate just because, like, well, lame, I didn't want to do this? The truth is, though, I don't think I've worked with a group of teachers where not everyone at least tried round 1 and round 2. Sometimes in round 3, they stop because they know it's hard, and when it gets hard, they don't like it. You know what I'm saying? And then you connect it to the classroom and how, help students to get the content and stick with the content even when it gets hard. But most people try. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is a good example of perseverance. And by the way, I want to point out, if you're going to do this activity with your teachers or your students, you've got to go practice. So in other words, if you're going to teach perseverance, you have to persevere. And I think that's the best part of this activity. You got to go home and practice this, right? And eventually you'll get it, and it'll become easy for you. Then you go teach that skill to your teachers. Then those teachers go and teach it to their students. And that, by definition, is the idea of not giving up. I'm not going to give up. They're not going to give up. The student's not going to give up. And then you train the students to do the same thing. This could become a school-wide thing for you, right? When you see a kid and they feel bad or they messed up on something, you're like, hey, listen, we all make mistakes, right? Let's bounce back from these mistakes, right? And this would be a physical way of showing them that concept. Another question is, your at-risk teachers tend to travel in 3 or 4. Do you suggest addressing group or individual? I think individual is the best. The statement is at-risk teachers tend to travel together, right, in groups, and then, it's awkward when you're trying to talk to 4 people and they don't really want to talk to you. I think it makes a huge difference to having some individual time with people. I know our principal did something cool. He would, actually around this time every year, would fund and we put a few bucks, but not much, a kind of, right after school, we all go to a Mexican food restaurant, and we all sit down and talk. And what a good opportunity to, to pull people, not aside, like, hey, come here, but just to go sit down next to someone and talk to them. There's obviously a lot more sensitivity working with at-risk teachers. I'm not sure if I like that term, at-risk teachers, but I think we all know what we're talking about. There's some teachers that just really want to fight you, and there's some students who just want to fight you. And so patience and perseverance is it. One thing I would say is don't ever give up on any teacher, just like you wouldn't give up on a student. Even if a teacher is fight you tooth and nail for every single step you want to take at school, I think there's a huge difference in, number 1, trying to get to know them, and number 2, be enthusiastic, and number 3, buy in, right? Explain why we're doing this policy and offer their input. They go, okay, I'd love to find out what your input is on what we're doing, and then really try to get that person to buy in, because there's nothing better. You got to admit, there's nothing better in the classroom when one of your students who is an at-risk student who struggled, but you got them on your side, and they start policing the other students. Oh my gosh, is that the best? Where they're like, hey, don't talk. He's talking right now. Don't talk, right? And you're just like, yeah, you want to cry. It's the same thing with teachers. Once you get that teacher who hasn't been on your side to get on your side, you're going to be like, and again, it takes time, it takes energy, it takes perseverance. So don't give up. In fact, that's the whole message of this whole darn webinar. Don't give up. It is the end of the first semester. You're tired. You're low on energy. Don't give up. Don't give up. You can do this. You're going to be fine. Anyways, I'm on my way out. It just hit 1 o'clock. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. It was a blast working with you. Thank the NAESP for inviting me. They do amazing workshops. So back to you, Honor. Thank you so much.
Jacob, you have done an awesome job today. Thank you so much on behalf of NAESP and all of us. We are so appreciative of all the exciting things that you've shared with us today. So again, this session is being recorded and will be available on the NAESP website at www.naesp.org/webinars within 48 hours. So have a great afternoon, everyone.